Welcome to One More Hour, the podcast all about backyard ultras, timed races, and the ultra running mindset of going one more. If you're an ultra runner, a trail or ultra runner curious about the format, or just someone who loves to test your limits, you're in the right place. I'm Jackie Wilson, an ultra marathon and marathon run coach, trail runner, outdoor enthusiast, and backyard ultra expert. On this show, I'll bring you stories, strategies, and conversations with runners, race directors, experts, and more to help you go further, dig deeper, and keep going when everything in you says stop. Thank you so much for joining me for some yards. Let's get started with one more. Welcome back to the One More Hour podcast, your insider's guide to backyard ultras, last runner standing races, timed events, and the mindset of going one more. I am joined today by Wendy Krause. She's a fellow Minnesota runner, and we've chatted a fair amount over the last few years on Instagram, but we've never really officially met until we ran Black's Grove Backyard Ultra in Wadena, Minnesota this past May. So it was really fun to actually run together, just talk in person versus always over Instagram. Wendy is a fellow running coach and has a lot of experience on the trails and in ultras. She's very familiar with the Northwoods of Minnesota, Wisconsin. She took first female in the Popple Chute 87K in May 2024, Kettle Moraine 100K in June 2024, and ran a very impressive 19-hour, 10-minute 100-miler at the Hennepin 100 in October 2024, which is absolutely incredible. If you follow her on Instagram, you've probably seen her running with her dogs. They are adorable. If you do not follow her, you definitely need to follow her. I'll include her Instagram handle in the show notes. And most recently, she entered the world of backyard ultras. So we have a lot to talk about today. I'm really excited about this conversation. So let's get into it. Welcome, Wendy. Thanks so much for joining me today.
Oh my gosh, so excited to have this opportunity. Thanks for inviting me. It's just always fun to see how social media brings people together. And I know sometimes it can be like almost a love-hate thing. And honestly, I have met so many great people in real life. So it was just serendipitous to cross paths at Black's Grove.
Yeah. And I feel like, you've talked to someone on social media for so much that when you meet in person, you are like, there's no introduction. Like you already feel like you've met, even though you really haven't.
Yeah. So I'll just give a quick little back review, I guess, of my background and just, a little bit about me. I've been running for 20 plus years. Most people are like, oh, were you an endurance athlete or did you run track in high school? And no, actually, I discovered running as an adult and really just fell in love with the simplicity of it. Throwing on a pair of shoes and just entry to sport was super easy and smooth sailing. And it just went from my very first race of a 13.1 distance and quickly accelerated after having kids and finding that one thing that could get me out the door, and really just evolved, went into coaching, love it. And of course, like you said, the dogs became a part of the lifestyle. I just had to have dogs that align to that. So my two Vishlas, my girls, I call them. People are like, you have kids? I do, but I talk more about my dogs than my kids. They get lots of feature time on my Instagram page. And of course, I'm now in midlife years. Sometimes I'm like, pinch me. Am I really? Because I still feel very vibrant and youthful and able. Like I was 20 yesterday, and yet here I'm in my 40s. But at the same time, there's just so much wisdom and value and beauty. And I love working with those midlife runners. So, yeah. Excited to dig into Black's Grove.
Yes, absolutely. Before we get into that, what is your favorite part about working with midlife runners?
Oh, that's a great question. And honestly, I love it because I feel like we're so filled with wisdom. Like you aren't out there chasing paces anymore. You have learned the value and the beauty of so much behind all of that. And you're out there just enjoying life and appreciation for just all the other things that I think you finally have realized in midlife. Like there's so much more to life. Yeah. And there's just peace and there's beauty around you and there's just the simplicity of lifelong running. How do you make this a part of that journey and that progression and avoid chronic injuries and all these concerns that pop up when all you're chasing is pace, right?
Yeah.
And even just the mental piece of it, how that fits in with life. I mean, how do you make life happen? Working and family and kids and jobs and all the things that, how do you fit running into that? And I feel like midlife, you've kind of figured it out a little bit, but often you need that extra, support with a coach, which can just help reinforce taking that puzzle piece and that element out of guessing and just being able to show up and say, yeah, I have more wisdom, I have more experience, and I'm out there not just chasing pace, I'm enjoying the beauty and the pleasure of running.
Yeah, absolutely. And it reminds me of, those reels and memes where they're saying, I have these 4 things figured out this week, but this 5th thing is not there. Like the laundry is not there, or the creating my own training plan is not there. And that's where you can help with, like, okay, I'm going to take that off your hands. You have the rest figured out. Let's work together to figure out something that you love to do for yourself.
Yes, so true. I mean, I often get asked, how do you do it all? And I respond, I don't do it all. I mean, it is about using a coach so I can take that guesswork and brain work out of my life and just show up and execute. And they can do all the fine tuning and background, looking at that data. I get to do that for others now, which is so exciting and fulfilling and rewarding. And it's, to your point, like, oh, is my house always perfectly clean? No. Is the laundry always done? No. And is dinner always from scratch? No. Like it's okay. That's just life.
Yeah. Yeah. And you have dogs, so everything is great, right?
Everything is great with dogs. Life is just so great with dogs. They're always so joyful and happy.
Yes. Yeah, they are. Remind me how old they are now.
They are going to be 3 at the end of July. So
wow.
I'm almost like, do I really want to say 3 yet? Because I still feel like I have a month in there to milk to say they're not quite 3 and the time has just flown. I just can't believe they have literally been running thousands of miles with me now at age 3.
Yeah. So when did you, and I thought we were going to talk about this later, but I think we should talk about it right now. When you got so they're siblings, correct?
They are sibling sisters. Mm-hmm.
So when you got them, what was that process of the puppy age to starting to have them run with you?
Yeah, it's so interesting you ask, because I think there's just so much conflicting information out there and people are so reserved in holding their dogs back. But I specifically sought this breed and this type of dog out for the fact that they are well built and made for running and can handle this even at a very young age. So we got them at 8 weeks. We came home with them, and for the first several months, it was just puppy miles, we called them. And when I say miles, it was really about a quarter mile, a half mile. It was just like lots of sniffs, lots of pulls, lots of like getting just used to all the elements, all of the stimuli and the distractions. And really it was about getting to understand and learn them even more than me teaching them. It was their personalities, how they were going to react or respond to things, and just slowly and meticulously. So I kept a good old fashioned handwritten calendar of their mileage and each day how I would incrementally either change or shift that or give them some downtime or rest time. Was really intentional about that because I did have some concerns with not wanting to stunt their growth and having bone or joint issues. So for that first probably 6 to 8 months was really kind of similar to a person's training volume, where we would build for a couple weeks and then take a down week and then build for a couple weeks and take another down week. And so it worked really rhythmically well to train them, and they started responding really well as to just the point of cues, knowing when my shoes were going on for running. They were waiting at the door, and knowing when the harness came off the hook, like they were just ready to go and focus. They knew exactly what it was gonna entail. And then slowly, about a year in, we really started to kind of build more and more. There were still some longer runs that I was doing that I would do about half with them and then drop them off at home and continue. And now they're literally with me just about every step of the way, all the way up into my 20-mile runs. So It's been just a really amazing progression to observe and mark and just see how much they have expanded on their own running.
Yeah. Wow, that's absolutely amazing. And I guess when I talk to people who are looking to run with their dogs, or they're just really interested in like, hey, I want a dog to run with me. I think exactly what you said. It's so important to consider the dog's training just like we consider our own training. They can't just go hop into a 7-mile run if they're not used to that exercise. So actually building them into that and helping them adapt to the training, which they adapt very quickly, right? Like pretty soon 7 miles is not enough anymore.
No.
And that's a problem for me then.
Yeah, they can go on a run and still go on 3 walks and still have all the energy. And people look at me like, did you actually take them for a run? I'm like, yeah, I did, but they're still crazy. So they have definitely acclimated and adapted very well.
Yeah, yeah. How do you relate their lifestyle? Like, you know, they're running, they're walking, they're out there hunting in the yard, they're eating, they're sleeping, they're napping. Like, do you ever look at them and say like, wow, they do this really well, I should really focus on X, Y, or Z better? Or like, what's your relationship with their running and your training?
Oh, you know, Coda, I would suggest, she's one of my 2. I have Indian Coda, and Coda is what I call my barometer. She is literally the one that I have to be the most tuned into, because what I've learned out there running with her is if it's super hot, she is extra hot and she lets me know. And I think it's just okay to level set and readjust expectations and your own pursuits. Like sometimes there's days where I'm like, okay, today is going to be my speed work today. And today is a perfect example. I was supposed to do speed work today, and with the high humidity and the high heat, and we got a later start than we had hoped, we got going, and I just knew instantly she was not going to have it. And I'm like, you know what? Maybe this is just the sign that I need to take to step back and make an adjustment to say speed work's not going to happen today. I can move it to tomorrow. It's not a big deal. And so she gives me a reasonable way of responding to things that are out of our control, and being okay with that. Yeah. And so I think there's a part of that for sure, you know, whether it's hydration and I need to take more water stops. She's always reminding me, okay, when she's water stop, I should probably water stop too. Mm-hmm. My other one as well, like sometimes she just gets really puppyish and distracted and wants to like chase the butterfly that's running by her or flying by her, flittering by, and she's hopping in the air. Or, you know, she wants to grab that piece of garbage she just discovered, or the roadkill, which is awful. And so there's just like all these distractions, and I think sometimes we can find ourselves easily distracted in training too, and lose sometimes the joy of training. And I just love running with them because they remind me of so many of the things that I think very early on in my running I was so rigid and I wanted to stick to the training to a T, and they have forced me to be just flexible.
I love that. I love that. And I think there's just so much, you know, we love running, and our love for running evolves, but then also incorporating running with dogs is just this whole new level of loving running and watching them love it too.
Absolutely. The joy I get to witness, and they are never sad to go on a run. Like, there is no such thing. So for me, I'm like, I am blessed to be able to move my body and my feet, my legs that carry me through so many minutes and hours and miles every day. It's just, I am just very fortunate, and always just am blessed to, you know, not take that for granted, and to see that behind them too is just such a good reminder. Yeah,
absolutely. So thinking about midlife running, like how has your running evolved over the years?
Yeah, you know, it's funny because I was very much let me go for that PR every single race. Let me just get the Boston qualifier. Let me go just hit those time goals and just bust it out as hard, as fast as I can all the time. And I think it's really helped me unravel so much more about just life. Yeah. It's time of solitude. It's time to just reflect. It's time to enjoy and slow down. And in midlife, you just realize how quickly life has gone. And you're like, wow, like where did life just go? And it's just such a great blessing to say, okay, now I'm not really chasing necessarily pace goals. This is me versus me. This is me against what I want to achieve and accomplish for myself and how I can push myself. It's not anyone else externally. It's not any comparison to the pace. It's just really a great place to be in, because I think you can identify goals and challenges that you may otherwise have not even considered or thought about, because you're so busy and hyper focused on just a time goal.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's, I think, what drew me into Black's Grove, frankly. I had never done a backyard ultra. So it was just, I was curious. I'm like, okay, here I am, a run coach. I coach athletes. For ultra, I admittedly, I have not had any of my athletes to this date do a backyard ultra, but I was like, how can I coach someone if I don't know or have this lean-in curiosity and experience to push myself? So I think it's just a different wave of focus and commitment in midlife.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that you brought up coaching and trying a new experience, a new format of a race to be able to coach and help runners through it, right? But then also to put yourself in that position of, what is this actually like? Like, what am I going to feel? What am I going to be thinking? What am I going to experience? What are the problems going to be? What do I need to consider for my athletes? And, you know, when you're trying something new, there's always that level of excitement and spark and curiosity of like, what is this actually going to be like?
It felt like a whole new experience for me, honestly. I was like, ooh, I got like the excitement nerves of being like a first time ultra runner again. I'm like, I'm not new to this, like ultra endurance, right? I've ran a dozen or more races and done really well, but like, I just had I was like, oh, this whole format is so new to me. And I'm like, yeah, I hear so much about people complaining about the boredom piece. And I'm like, who gets bored in the woods? What is wrong with you? I will never get bored in the woods. Like, I don't care if it's the same loop. So that just really had me questioning a lot. And I just wanted to lean in and have that experience and understand, like, what were the different logistics and the different things you had to think about and be practicing. And it felt very different because essentially you're all kind of starting out together and going similar paces, and you're all kind of ending together. So unlike an ultra where you end up, you know, in single tracks and spread out, and sometimes you're with maybe two or three, and other times you're hours out there by yourself. Mm-hmm. It was a very different community vibe and experience, and like just all those various logistics. I really wanted to just like understand myself.
Yeah. What were you thinking before the race started? Like, did you have any expectations of what it was going to feel like, or what you were going to kind of learn while you were out there?
Well, I was hoping for a 24-hour race, honestly, and I was hoping to be, like, hurting by 24 hours. I mean, hurting in that, like, you know, you run for 24 hours, body mechanics and all of those things do start to break down to some varying degree, but in a good way. For me, it was like, okay, I want to just see, like, this is the format, this is the place and space where I have, like, no end goal, like, just keep going. And it was like, this is awesome. Like, okay, we can set our foot out to do 100 miles and you're done, you complete it, you're like, yay, pat yourself on the back. But then almost this like sense of like, oh, well, could I have kept going? I mean, did I have more? Did I leave it all out there for 100 miles? I don't know. Mm-hmm. So like, I'm just, again, that curiosity of what you can do to push the human body was so much a part of what I had hoped to go into it, to learn from, to say, I'm going to be out there like the longest I've ever been. Like, I'm ready to do this. Let's do it. So that was, I think, probably more than anything. And then outside of just some of the simple logistics, you know, setting up your tent near the start finish corral, kind of just, I was a little bit deer in the headlights to that, didn't know and didn't think about that, and just kind of plopped my tent somewhere and was in hindsight a little regretful of how far away I was. It was like, oh man, I need to be close. You know, so there's just like little things that I kind of didn't know going into it, and that I was like, okay, well, I'm going to learn. And it might be the hard way, and I'll just learn the hard way.
Yeah. So we started Friday morning, 11 a.m. It was gorgeous, right? Mm-hmm. Like overcast. If we could have had that weather all day, it would have been amazing.
It was like a perfect start.
Right? Yeah. So I think it started raining around the 4-hour mark, if I'm remembering correctly. What was your thought after we started the first yard, second yard, third yard? Like, how were you feeling? What was going through your mind in these first couple loops?
You know, I had a little extra time the first few loops, more than I had maybe thought I would. Yeah. And so I was kind of taking my time, grabbing nutrition, making sure I was constantly going through kind of my rhythm and checklist of what I would normally do to take care of myself. And that came, you know, it was like, okay, quick bathroom stop, replenish the fuel, grab a snack, make sure I had the right gear for that loop, and out back to the corral. And that seemed to go pretty effortlessly and pretty smoothly the first few loops, to your point, before, you know, like the rain settled in and before the day kind of started getting sloppier. I felt really good. I felt like I had just this pattern down and it was just moving and grooving. I think the one thing that just stood out to me now in hindsight is I had a zip tent, and because I was self-aiding, I had nobody at the tent and nobody there, and I kind of kept, the wind was kind of coming up and I kept zipping and closing it. But as the day grew on and then the rain started getting settled in, I was noticing how frustrating that zipper was.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was like, okay, note to self, I just should just leave it and not zip it, because it was taking me precious time that I didn't want to lose.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's funny how like something little can turn into something big when things are amplified by just a time reinforcement. And that was always looming in the back of my brain, was like, how am I managing my time? Am I having enough time, and am I going to have enough time to do what I want to do?
Yeah, exactly. When it comes to remembering things that you need to do when you get back to your tent, is that all in your head? Are you repeating it out loud? Are you creating like an acronym? Like, what are you doing to try to remember those things?
Yeah, you know, that's a part of the muscle memory that I feel like is so important in ultra, and that's what I try to practice in long runs, and that's what I try to coach my athletes through, is a part of that rhythm where you just are on autopilot in a way, where you don't necessarily, and maybe there's that one or two thing you're like, oh, I want this as a snack instead of that. Or, ooh, I maybe need to grab some squirrel's nut butter this time, and I didn't need it the last 2 times. So like those are the little things that you need to recognize very quickly and pivot. But for me, I just really felt like it was always the same rhythm that I've always approached most ultras with. And typically that's always first priority is fuel and hydration. Hydration. I mean, that makes and breaks so much, and I think is the hugest area of opportunity to practice for any athlete, is just food and fuel all the time.
Yes. Yeah. So how did you approach your nutrition, since this was your first backyard, right? And were you, like, when did you sign up for the race? Were you specifically training for the backyard, or were you just training in general?
I was just training in general, and this kind of came as a, hey, this is close to home. Why wouldn't I do it?
Yeah.
And so to have some of that community, it just felt like, hey, I've got nothing to lose to integrate this as a part of my training. So kind of backing up just a couple weeks prior to that, I did decide I probably should put myself through a mini kind of simulation, and I did my own 5-hour backyard ultra, if you will, in my own kind of neck of the woods. And really that was very eye-opening, because I had loads of time after the first like 2 loops, and I'm like, okay, I ran that way too fast. That was terrible. I don't need 25 minutes of just sitting around, because then my muscles are going to cramp. Yeah. And I just felt like that was just a really good way to kind of simulate the fact that, it is really about rhythmically slowing down, saving yourself on the front end. And so I really wanted to be consistent and try to ease into and lean into going into the backyard, just remaining very consistent, so that I wasn't having these yo-yos of a ton of time and then little time, so that I could really get into a rhythm and know exactly how to take care of myself each loop. And part of that, again, was just I know what I need to do when I come into an aid station. So it's almost like this, okay, how do you get in and out of an aid station efficiently? That's essentially what I was just trying to keep in my brain was how do I get in and out of this aid station efficiently and make sure I get all the like check boxes of what I want to get done. So I did have a little practice simulation. That was excellent and a good way to say, okay, you don't need to start out that hot and fast. You will burn out in 5 hours. And then I'll be like, okay, I made it a 50K, now what? Yeah. And that wasn't my goal. I really did want to preserve myself and see how long I could really go.
So what are your favorite nutrition products that you're using out there?
Oh my gosh, I don't know that I have any favorites at the moment. Well, admittedly, maybe Tailwind has kind of always been my go-to. I use Tailwind through and through as my liquid calorie. Liquid is much easier, I think, in some ways, digestion-wise, just fluids, and I can take in a reasonable amount. My carbs are usually aimed between 80 and 100 minimum every hour, and Tailwind just is super easy for me to math that out, especially when you're, doing loops and carrying a flask or whatever. But I really have gotten to a place where I try to train myself to be really versatile with my nutrition. So with real foods, with gels, I'll use everything from BPN to Honey Stinger to Cis to you name it, I've probably tried it. Yeah. And I do feel like there's a time and place for it. And sometimes you crave like the flavors and other times you don't. And so I've gotten to learn myself and my palate fatigue and my kind of where those metrics are for me and where they hit me the hardest. So I try to just really bring in lots of variety and lots of options, probably more than people even think they need, just because I definitely feel like it keeps you going and it keeps it more exciting. And you're like, oh, I'm just kind of craving that. And then you just grab it and go. Yeah.
I love variety. I love options. You never know what's going to hit best on race day, especially with the weather, right? A lot of races, you don't anticipate wanting maybe some hot foods until in the evening, but we had rain the entire time. So I was wanting broth in the afternoon.
I did eat broth too. Yes. I had like 2 of my loops. I came back and had broth and some noodles because I was like, oh, my hands were just soaking wet. And I was just like, I need to have something warm and just nourishing. And broth always does the trick for me. Yes. And I feel like it's just an easy go-to. You can grab your little stove and heat it up in a minute. And I was a little concerned about even that and doing that myself on the limited time we had. So I had everything laid out and it was just like, okay, if I have 3 minutes, I can still get some broth in and still get it out, get out to the start and be ready to go.
Yeah. So in terms of crewing yourself, would you do it again?
I would, absolutely. I think there's just so much beauty and blessing in being able to like work through those challenges and those opportunities and reflect. And there's, a fair amount of races my family has been my crew team. And then there's a fair amount that I've just solo crewed myself. And I've learned so much about both. And it's just how you can communicate with your team and what that looks like. And they can't read your mind. And sometimes you just have to be like, just make the decision for me. Yeah. I can't think straight. Just do it for me. And that was really it more than anything too, is self-crewing there really made me go, okay, I need to be able to take care of myself and ask myself, what do I need? And be able to honor and recognize that and take quick change and quick action to make that happen. And sometimes when you do rely on others to make the decisions for you, you almost get a little complacent and can forget things or maybe not be as attuned to how much you're taking in for fuel or if you're accountable to that. And I just really wanted to be accountable and making sure that my body could handle it and I could do it and the mental capacity was there.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. There's something to say about crewing yourself versus having a crew. There's so many benefits, pros and cons of both of them, right? But I think back to the backyards that I've crewed myself versus having a full crew. I was so much more aware when I was by myself because you have to be reliant on yourself and you have to remember all these things versus sitting back and saying, you guys are doing everything. Like, yes, you have a nutrition plan and everything that you've told them what you want, but you're not constantly thinking. So that being said, do you think the mental side of the backyard was harder because you were crewing yourself, or didn't you really notice that?
I didn't necessarily notice it as much until probably the last 2 loops that I was on. Because you might have recalled one of them, I didn't think about grabbing my headlamp. And I was like, oh, I have plenty of time. I got another hour till the sun goes down, and then you forget you're in the woods. It's darker sooner, faster. And I got about halfway through that loop, and I kind of started having a little panic attack. And I was like, oh my gosh, I forgot my headlamp. What am I going to do? I'm like, okay, it's only 2 miles. Just chill out. It's fine. You can like go slower. You have plenty of time. But I just couldn't believe I had made that mistake. It kind of felt like a rookie mistake. And I was like, how could I have done that? But I had just kind of forgot. And I was just so wrapped up in the just keep going. And that was, I think, a huge aha moment for me. Like, yeah, I was feeling good at taking care of myself until all of a sudden that one thing happened. And I was like, oh no, what did I do to myself? So the next loop, I made sure I had my light on. We were good.
Well, with the rain, like technically it was probably an hour earlier that we needed it because it was darker. So it's also kind of with the backyard, you want to think about time in a certain place and time, but at the same time, you don't want to get caught up with, oh my gosh, we're only 10 hours in. It's only 10 p.m. or whatever. So that's a hard give and take too of what you're recognizing and acknowledging and what you kind of just want to fly past you as a thought.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a huge eye-opening moment for me. It was like, oh, oopsies. But, running in the rain for me, I feel like, gosh, half of my races have always presented rain. My husband was giving me the hardest time because he's like, I think you're freaking yourself out too much about this. Every race you've pretty much won, you have ran in the rain. And like, I'm like, you're right. I kind of have, haven't I? I was like, yeah, reminding myself that, elements are elements. And that's kind of how I've always looked at it is just, you have to learn and adapt. And so much of it is about having the right gear and just knowing how to take care of yourself through those elements. And like you and I know we're winter runners. We run outside all year round. I've just learned so much about that in the last, decade of just outdoor running, all 4 seasons, and knowing there's always sort of this transitional phase and how to like accommodate. And that really reminded me, like, who cares if it's raining? Like, it's going to make for a little tougher course. It might be a little slower. Might be some things to consider, but I have the right gear. I can show up. We can do this. It's going to be a great time regardless. It's in the woods.
Yeah. It was gorgeous in the woods. And for those who don't know about the course, we were in the woods primarily. We were kind of on a grassy section for a while. It was primarily on a mountain bike course. So once the rain started, it was muddy the entire time. How did you handle the mud?
Well, I mean, that was a little tricky in some of those sections. I was very cautious, and I was like, I do not need to slip and fall and break an arm or screw up my ankle or any of these number of things. So that was a little, I tend to use trees as my bracing mechanisms, I think you and I both, there's a handful of us that were just kind of like ping-ponging off of trees. Luckily, because it was such a narrow single track, there were a lot of trees close enough where it was like, you just kind of felt like they were kind of catapulting you between corners and turns, and it was a very turny course. So, and then just shortening the cadence, being mindful of your footsteps, and really making sure that you weren't pushing where it maybe didn't make sense to push. To your point, there was a couple sections where if you wanted to kind of pick up a little bit of a rhythm, you could, where it was a little more free, open space and a little more hilly, straight sections where there wasn't all those curves and single tracks that were so muddy. But that mud definitely took its toll. I mean, it makes your feet and your ankles work harder. It just makes you be more mindful of your just placement and where you're stepping and how you're just moving through the track.
Yeah. And a lot more focus on the course too, right? Like I felt like I was so focused on the course that I didn't even consider listening to a podcast or anything other than talking to runners. Like I was like, no, I'm content just focusing on the course right now. How was your mindset out there with the rain, with other runners? Like, what were you thinking throughout the race?
Oh my gosh, I loved it. I thought it was so great because you do get to run with such a nice group of runners. So connecting and chatting and having those conversations and getting to just like hear other people. I think there was a handful of first time ultra people there. You know, that was their first go of it. I thought, what better way to get that experience?
Yeah.
I just love this format for someone who is maybe uncertain and maybe lacking that confidence to say, let's go out and run a 50K. Like, this is a great place and space. You don't have the logistics and the crewing and all the things that come with planning an ultra and having to direct and communicate. And sometimes you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And so I really... I heard a handful of runners that tapped out, I think, the loop or two before me. I was hearing pitter-patter conversations behind me about how they were bored and, oh, this is so boring and I'm done. I don't know why we're doing this. And it was kind of funny and comical at the same time because I'm like, oh yeah, you're definitely not a midlife runner like me. That was like my first thought going through my head was just like, you don't know how grateful I am to be out here. And I would take it all day and every day and just like keep going if that were the case, because I just love it. And I think there's just an appreciation for it differently. And when you can see beyond just, it's not just a number, it's not just the number that you hit, it's how far you can push your body and your mind and learn and grow and understand what those challenges are in yourself. I think it's just amazing.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and it's so approachable, right? With the pace that you need to maintain over the course of the loop. I mean, you don't have to have the goal of it being your first ultra. Like, this can be your introduction to trail running and just seeing what you're capable of.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, even if you wanted to just do like 2 hours out on trail and just get time on trail, because there is definitely an element to that where it can be more challenging. That course was fairly technical. I mean, there was a handful of rooty sections and some rocks that just kind of popped up there, and there's plenty of rickety little crossings that you had to kind of navigate and just make sure you didn't slip and fall.
Yeah.
So it was, and there was a handful of hills too that definitely made it a little bit more interesting to me, and I think I appreciated that rather than having just a flat, fast loop course. I think that was the exciting piece of it. And we changed, directions every 5 loops. That kind of kept it exciting.
I like
your memory, like, you go, oh, I remember that tree, and oh, I remember that branch that whacked me in the face 3 times. Like, it's just the funny little things that kind of come up, and it's just, I think that's what keeps it exciting and memorable and just engaging too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think like the whole concept of staying present and resetting every hour, there was a group of us, we were running, you're just stacked, right? Because you're not running for a fast pace. Like, you're running to stay out there as easy as possible so that you have enough time back at camp to do it again and again. But, we were running and all of us kept on getting whacked in the face by these branches, and we're like, okay, next time we're going to remember. And then the first couple people would get whacked and like, we would all forget. So talk about just being present and not focusing on the numbers, because I think this format helps you do that.
It absolutely does. I think you can absolutely, every time you get back, to your point, it's like a clean slate. It's like a new run. Okay, I've got my nutrition, my hydration, let's go again. Yeah. And I think that was the beauty of just being out there and to your point, also hanging out with a handful of us that were all kind of similarly at the same rhythm and the same pace. There was periods where none of us talked for a while. We just kind of zoned into our, focus and our footing and our trail and just made sure none of us fell and slipped or, kind of lended a little, help here or there. And I think it's one of those things where it forces you to be present. It forces you to say, don't worry about next hour. I've got right here, right in front of me. All I'm doing is this 4-mile stretch, 4.167. That's all I have to worry about, and just get back and then start again. And it really breaks it down into small bite-sized chunks. And I think that's really the basis to your point. Someone who wants to first time trail run, somebody who wants to first time ultra, any of these elements, just to even practice how to be their own aid station to that point too. How do they come back and have their aid station set up to be organized so that it's efficient, or that they know what they need. And sometimes I think we overcomplicate things as humans, right? You just make it more than it has to be. And that's the why I loved running to begin with, was just the simplicity and the beauty of it. You don't want a pair of sneakers, go get some Goodwill clothes, don't even care how I look, get out the door and like grab my fuel and my hydration, you're good, right?
Yep.
Like that, I think, is just at the end of the day how you can just stay really focused on each hour, 1 hour at a time.
Yeah, absolutely. So you did this backyard simulation as one of your last long runs before Black's Grove, and you learned that, wow, I do not need to run this fast. I have way too much time back at my camp. How did you approach pacing at Black's Grove? Did you have an idea what you were going to do? Were you just kind of tuning in to what everyone else was doing? Where were you at?
Yeah, I definitely, I had a kind of a range I wanted to be within, and that was between that like 47 to 52 minutes for my laps. And so then I knew I had about 8 minutes or so to come back, reset, and I felt like that was a pretty good average. It was slow enough in my, zone 2 or even easier than that. It was, and then actually, finding those who kind of mimicked that were the ones that I ended up being out there with, much of the time and alongside of, and rhythmically just made sense to keep continuing to hang with the same kind of group and pace.
Yeah.
It didn't feel like it was too hard. It didn't feel like I was overdoing it. It felt like it was sustainable. So I think for me personally, it just felt very, very easy to find that kind of range. I think one of the loops that was a little bit faster than I had even hoped, and I was like, okay, gosh, that felt easy, but I just need to keep it even easier. And that kind of gave me that level set to say, ego aside, there's no ego here, just go and keep your pace where you need to go. And if that's with 5 others, great. If it's just with 1, who cares? Just go do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you see anything out there during the race that you're like, oh, I really want to incorporate that practice into my current race or my next race, or anything that you're like just kind of thinking about of, oh, I didn't really think about that. But that's definitely something that I don't want to incorporate into my training and into my race.
Yeah, I don't know about necessarily my actual training rhythm as much as probably like just logistics. Things that were just simple logistics that could have made things a bit easier and less difficult on me, just being self-aid and self-crewed. That was probably the biggest piece that I found. Now, from an actual training, though, in reflection, I would say I loved that it gave me the opportunity to be on more technical ground and to fill out that rhythm of keeping things easy when things get hard. And I think that is just the reminder we often need in long endurance or in trail. Anytime there's technical, like every hour kind of gave you that reset. And there were sections that were not technical and not hard. So it was kind of a nice breaking it up into, okay, there's just like any other race you show up at. There's going to be tough sections. There's going to be easy sections. Like, break it down, keep going. That's just always a good reminder in any of like ultra training and any endurance or trail training. It's just, there's always those tough sections you climb and ease out of the pace. It's okay. You're not losing any ground. You're still moving forward. So I think those kind of elements are definitely areas that I'm always reminding my athletes too of. Like, you're still moving forward. Like, remove the pace pressure and let's talk about efficiency. Let's talk about the hikes up the hill and the, descending really well and keeping your footing there. And let's not have any Superman falls and we'll be good. And there were thankfully, knock on wood, there were no Superman flies through the air for me. And I had a couple close calls, but it was good. And I was like very thankful that I did not fall or get injured or slip and have something happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you have any other low moments out there besides kind of the panic of, I don't have my headlamp and it is getting dark out right now?
I think as I approached the 12th hour, which is where I ended, it was really more about the nutrition. And when I say that, it wasn't that I wasn't hydrating and I wasn't using my kind of metrics as a, I fulfilled like what I had set out to do. I had just recognized I probably should have ate more for dinner, and I probably should have ate more whole foods much sooner. I kind of had forgotten like that 11 a.m. start was kind of an odd time to start. And so you crusted over lunch and dinner, and it was really starting to catch up to me. And I was noticing my time was slowing down with that rain and the course getting much slipperier. And I was just concerned I wasn't going to be able to sustain the adequate nutrition to keep myself going without just getting super fatigued. And then things just start happening when you're that fatigued. You start tripping, you start falling, you start, then things kind of spiral. And at least for me, not everyone, but I think that was where my brain went, was just the low of, ooh, I really maybe failed here on not eating enough for dinner. And I didn't eat enough for lunch. Yeah. And so now it's catching up to me a bit. And I don't know if this is going to get me through the night.
So I have two questions about that. The first one is, what made you realize, like, how did you come to that realization of, oh, I did not eat enough for my meals? Was it low energy? Was it stiffness? Like, what was it that you started kind of problem solving and thinking about to come to that conclusion?
It was full on hunger pains. My stomach was like, rawr. I'm like, man, I've had like 3 gels and I've had like 75 grams of carbs in this tailwind, and nothing is helping me. This is not a good sign. And I was, like I said, running a little bit closer to that, like 55, 56 minutes, I think, the last 2 loops. And so I didn't have enough time to like start the stove and get the like warm food, and nothing that I had brought was super quick. I had ate through all of my like peanut butter sandwiches earlier and thought that was going to be enough. I highly underestimated how much food I actually needed. I mean, so you forget. I get so tunnel vision and wrapped up into the every hour and just kind of rhythmically doing and executing that you forget you do crest over those meal times. And legitimately your body's looking for that nutrition. A couple hundred calories and some carbs is only going to be so sustaining. That does help, but you got to think about other means of fueling as well. And I'm definitely one that does not skip meals. And so it kind of felt like I'd skip meals and I was like, ugh, this is not good feeling. So yeah, it kind of hit me hard and fast, and unfortunately, and then I knew I was just short on time to get anything made, unfortunately.
Yeah. So I think it's common for people who are new to ultras not to think about like, oh, maybe I should structure breakfast, lunch, and dinner into my fueling plan. Whereas someone who is more experienced in ultras, that may be something they've realized, or they've worked with a registered dietitian or a coach who has recommended it. Can you just talk a little bit about the importance that meals play into your fueling plan, even though you are fueling the entire time?
Yeah, your gut is absorbing things so different when you're running. And I think we become almost dependent on, obviously, those high, fast carbs. And carbs are not necessarily filling the stomach. And which is sometimes a good thing, but your body isn't trained. When you're only doing an ultra so many times throughout the year, it's not like you're training it to just survive off of carbs. It's looking for other means of fuel. And so I have always, through all of my races, incorporated breakfast, lunch, and dinner meals, if you will, quote unquote, because I will bring crepes usually wrapped up for my breakfast, and like put jelly and other things in there to kind of fill them. I will bring a sandwich usually for lunch, and while it doesn't seem like, oh, well, that doesn't seem like a lot, it's enough to help me feel energized and going. And then it stops those hunger pains too. Often I grab pancakes from aid stations because I just love the carbs. And so the pancakes are great. I tend not to do great with like the dry things. I just feel like it makes me even thirstier, and then my gut's just filled with fluids and then sloshing. And so I don't love that, but sandwiches will do great for lunches. And then dinner, I always usually highlight something like a broth with noodles and vegetables, and always take the time to try to eat more for like a dinner, especially if I plan or anticipate on going through the evening. Because again, your body's awake during those times when it's usually in rest and recovery repair mode, and now you're asking it to show up, and giving it energy is so important to get through the nighttime hours when you're kind of shocking your body to begin with, like, hey, I'm asking you to stay up all night, and now I'm not going to feed you either. So I am a huge advocate, to your point, working with a dietitian, working with a nutritionist, finding the sweet spot to understand and finding what works for you. Every person is so unique and so different. And I really, I cringe, honestly, when people are like, oh, I survived off of just my gels and Tailwind, and I'm like, oh, yikes. I'm like, where's the food? I mean, it can be as simple as just fruit. I do watermelon often with salt, and pineapple, and just easy on the go berries that is like a natural sweetener and source of food. And then other like palatable things that I can really enjoy. And it might be gummy bears, and it might be, it's kind of my excuse to be able to like eat all the like junk food that I wouldn't normally survive on. And I'm like, the licorice, the Wallabies licorice, and the, you know, all these things that I'm like, I know they're so bad for you, but they taste so amazing during an ultra.
I was at Aldi the week before the race getting a bunch of fruit snacks and everything, and I saw someone I knew there, and they looked at my basket and they're like, I didn't know you had kids. I was like, I don't. I'm running an ultra, and this is what I need to fuel.
Yeah. You know, and I've found even the nice alternative to some of those really expensive gels and nutrition things, and I almost don't want to share this on here, Jackie, because you have so many good followers. I'm going to give you one of my secrets, and I don't want Aldi to change their like pricing. But I love their baby food packets. Because they're like 79 cents, and it's real food. It's just pureed. And I mean, I could probably make it myself, but who's got the time for that? Again, it's like, I don't have time for everything. And so, I mean, for 79 cents versus like $3 gels, they are a little bit bigger and chunkier to take with, but honestly, I'll usually use that as like my extra before I start the race. I'll just have one of those. I'll sometimes sprinkle that out throughout the race to have as just an extra supportive food. And then sometimes I'll, you know, add that as an extra element to my like meal that I plan, so that it's just a little more boost outside of just gels and carbs, high carb. Yeah, absolutely. And again, I think variety is so important to that palate fatigue. And until you've experienced running for over 6 hours, like running 12 hours, 18 hours, 24 hours, like a lot of times you don't experience that palate fatigue in training. And that's where I see a lot of the first timers think that they have their nutrition all planned out with Tailwind and gels, right? And then they get to hour 7 of the backyard and it's like, I don't want any of this. Yeah, to your point too, I've really narrowed that down. And so I kind of knew where I needed to switch a little bit and have some different variety. And one thing that I've discovered that's been just a huge saving grace on races are their like little finger wipes that you just put on your finger, and you brush your teeth and your mouth with them. And they have like a toothpaste-ish taste in them. Yeah. But anyway, you can get them on Amazon for like 100 pack for like $5 or something. And that has been Oh my gosh, game changing. Because whenever I have like palate fatigue or anything, or you just, after a while, those carbs just stick on your mouth and your teeth anyway. Those sweet things that all those gels, it's like you just need to clear your mouth. It doesn't matter how much water you have or any, it just doesn't go away.
Yeah.
And that has been just a game changer. I must have used one of those about every other loop that I was on, because I just felt like, okay, this is my perfect chance to keep my mouth fresh and clean.
Yeah.
So it was great.
Yeah, I use my toothbrush, but I think I need to check those out because those sound awesome. Because sometimes I'm like, it's just another thing to remember and put back, right? So having something that's super easy that you can just put in your garbage, it sounds super simple.
Super easy.
All right, so I want to know, what are you training for next? Like, what is your A goal for this year?
Oh, my A goal. I finally got in on the lottery to Superior 100 miler in September.
Awesome.
So
Congratulations.
Thank you. I've done their 50 miler twice, and the last 2 years was unable to get into their lottery. And so now I feel like here I am reckoning with a true technical training element and hilly course, kind of mountainous, if you will, for Minnesota.
Yeah.
I'm super excited. I feel like it's in my backyard, but it's still a couple hours away. So,
Right.
I mean, I'm just thrilled. I can't even, I've paced a friend there. Like I said, ran it a few times. I just love, love, love the Superior hiking trail. And I did Wild Duluth last fall, and it just, I don't know, there's something so challenging about that, and yet so amazing and beautiful, and I am just excited. So yes, that's in September.
So is there anything that you learned in Black's Grove that you want to apply to either training or to the race itself when you run Superior?
Yeah, Black's Grove, and that was a good reminder of the nighttime running and knowing that you're probably going to have some elements to deal with. Superior always seems to be notoriously known for at least some rain at some point. And so I feel like it's preparing me to have the rain at night and to be able to problem solve that. And part of that is just the lighting. I had a light issue with the light that I ended up grabbing, and again, recently had a similar experience pacing some of my athletes. So it's just a good reminder to some of the little logistics can become big problems and really get you fixated on realizing, you have control of those things, and so take control of those things.
Yeah.
The things you can't control are those weather elements. So how you show up prepared for those is going to be really key. So I felt like Black's Grove gave me a good kind of lens into what I need to be prepared for Superior running through the night and the weather elements.
Yeah. So there's one of the runners in our running group. I've actually never met her, but she's been a part of our group chat, and she moved out of town. But the rest of the group always talks about how she always has the worst weather conditions for the races that she runs. So every year that she runs Zumbro, there's a blizzard. Like, it's just insane how she gets these extreme weather events. So I feel like, I don't know if I can run a race with you ever again, because I don't know if I want rain that long ever again. And it seems like you bring the rain.
Yeah, I probably do bring the rain, but I love the rain. I don't mind the rain at all. It definitely makes you slower, though, and I think that can be hard in that sort of backyard setup if you start losing significant time hour over hour, where all of a sudden you're like, oopsie, now I don't have any time, and I gotta get back out again. So
it was so peaceful, though, in the woods. There was never a point other than wishing that the course wasn't as muddy and slippery as it was. Like, I don't think the rain was much of a problem in terms of morale, because it was just, it was gorgeous out there.
It was a great course, and I'll definitely look in, trying to incorporate that next year, maybe a little bit more mindful to my training. And getting back out there if Black's Grove is going again, because it was such a fun grassroots feeling. Yeah,
it was. I'm assuming that they'll have it again. I think they did a great job just with the information for the runners and the time that they put into the race and all the sponsors. I just think it was very well put together. And had I not known it was a first year race, I wouldn't have known.
I would agree with you. They did an excellent job to that point. I would not have known it was a first year race either. And it was a fun course for sure. And I'm thinking I got to get down there more and do some more training on it too.
Yeah. Yeah, I want to explore not only more of the mountain bike course, but then also the cross-country trail and just get out there and play and see what else is out there, because it looks like a pretty big area.
It does, yes. There's so many other spanning trails, and I got kind of lost when I was out there just checking it out prior to the race and realized I was on the horse trails and not the actual mountain bike trail. I'm like, this doesn't seem right. Yeah, okay, not right. So, yeah, a lot more to explore for sure there.
Yeah, yeah. What advice do you have for someone who is signing up for their first backyard ultra?
Ooh, I would say just stay curious. Lean in and stay curious. Keep learning from those details. Like, don't let the hours be the focus, just 1 hour at a time. And really just a way to just practice all the things that maybe you have talked with your own coach about or you've thought about in training. That's the time and place to have great conversation and build community with other runners to, you know, share what's worked for them, what might work for you. I definitely know there was a handful of new runners out there. And so when I had shared the little baby food, they're like, oh, see, there's some tricks that we didn't know up our sleeves. And so I think you can really use it as a great learning experience and to just take a lot of nuggets away to make you more successful for future trail or ultra. I really do.
I love that. There's always a lesson to learn, and every race is teaching you at least something. You just kind of have to be open to acknowledging it and taking it into the future.
Absolutely. It was so much fun. It was so much fun to cross paths with you, Jackie.
I know.
We're gonna have to like meet halfway and do some running together here.
Yes. I feel like, you know, if you meet someone in Minnesota, they're primarily from the cities area, so they think that you're right there, and it's like, let's just meet up. And I'm like, I'm kind of 4 hours away or 5 hours away, depending on what side of the cities they're on. But, you know, you and I are in the north half of the state, and we're still far away from each other. There's no direct route.
It is so true. I mean, people forget how big Minnesota is. Sometimes they're like, wait, are you from Michigan or are you from North Dakota? I'm like, no, I'm in the middle of nowhere in Minnesota. It's, you know, but to your point, there's just so much to offer in the state of Minnesota as well. And I think it's just easy to travel to different places and scout things. There's a lot more gems hidden and tucked away than I think people realize in Minnesota. So I love it here. Wouldn't change it, especially the winter running.
Yes. So I think we need to touch on your coaching, because you are a run coach yourself. I've seen you mention Midlife running. We kind of touched on it at the beginning. Can you just talk more about who you're coaching, what you love about it, who you coach for, and just tell us a little bit more?
Yeah, so I'm an Ornery Mule run coach, and so Ornery Mule is really a Midwest-based organization. They host Kettle Moraine, Hennepin 100. I mean, the list is just, there's plenty of races, but they're all Midwest-based, which is awesome. And yes, I love the midlife runner, the runner who is committed to wanting to do this lifelong, who is really looking for help navigating that midlife change their body is undergoing, particularly women, right? Women are, I think, highly overlooked and undervalued in that our bodies are just different after 40. I don't care who it is. You hit 40, beware. I'm giving you the warning now. But it can be good and bad. And I think in so many ways you have so much more wisdom, but also we're as women and moms and wives and like the schedulers and calendars of our lives and our relationships and all of that, it can be just so challenging to not overthink training. And I love to help women navigate, and midlife runners who are committed to wanting to do this for the rest of their life. And it doesn't mean that you have to be super competitive, or maybe you're just looking to push yourself to that first ultra. I've had a handful of athletes really decide to want to pursue their first ultra. And, my oldest athlete now is 58. It's just super impressive and amazing to see at 58 someone showing up and doing their first 50 miler and crushing it. And just, it's there. So my focus is really about the women, the midlife runners, and those who want to pursue this for a lifelong journey and find the beauty behind how to navigate that with your hormones changing, your body changing, muscle changing, all of that. So strength is a huge piece of that too.
Yeah, absolutely. How do you navigate the conversations around those who still want more? They still want to run further, or they're like, gosh, I just really want to run this faster half marathon or trail race or whatever it is, yet they still have society saying, you're aging, you're not going to be able to run faster or further. Like, how do you navigate those limiting beliefs that are kind of put on us?
Yeah, I'd like to suggest that sometimes you can use real people and real data, myself included. In my 40s, I've hit some of my best times. So to me, age is just a number. And there are some really impressive athletes over the age of 50 who are still showing up, crushing it, 100-mile races year after year after year. So I always try to use very specific real examples of saying, however, if that's really your focus and that's your goal, let's talk about what that looks like, and let's work towards that. And here's the people that are doing it still. Like, these are the people I follow. These are people that I want to introduce you to be inspired by. I think sometimes we don't give enough credit and due diligence to recognizing how exceptional women can perform, first of all, at endurance events. Women have now, look what just happened at Western States with how fast these times are getting with women at these big, long endurance races. Same with Cocodona 250. Rachel Entrigan, who just crushed it, first place overall. Like, hello, like, these are the data points that that fire me up, that just get me back to athletes to say, this is exactly what I'm talking about. There is no reason to put limiting beliefs in ourselves. I think if we just remove sometimes the ego and the expectations, it will come with time. It really will, if that's your goal.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I love the thought of removing those expectations. That's key right there.
Absolutely.
Athletes who are wanting to dream bigger, and at the same time they're realistic in where they are in life, right? Yet at the same time they have performed very well. Like, let's say they had a very strong collegiate performance. What's one of your biggest pieces of advice of maybe shifting away from the numbers to enjoy training and to enjoy the process and the longevity of running itself?
Oh, and I love this question because honestly, I feel like I'm navigating this with a particular athlete at this moment, actually. It's so hard because we get caught up in ourselves of what and how we were at a certain time and place in our life. And I think sometimes you have to just like unravel that and say, let's talk about the season you're in. Yeah. What does that season look like? And how are we going to be bringing forward the best you have today? And that may not be about the pace. It may be about staying injury-free if you've been plagued by younger youth injuries. It may be about being able to be consistent, doing 4 days of running versus just haphazardly 1 day, 1 week, 2 day the next, and just not being able to feel ready and prepared at the next race you show up. I think there's just so much complexity, and it really is about that unique athlete that you're working with and dealing with, and to like be able to unravel that and say, let's break this down into something really positive and really focus on what you can benefit from right now and how that can keep you progressing forward.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's hard to not live in the past and it's hard to not live wrapped up in those things. But I love using the data as well to support that. I mean, I'm very empathetic and I'm a very passionate people person. So I love to say, I know what our emotions are telling us. I understand that, but let's talk about the data that really reinforces the progress that you have, where you're at today. And now let's take a step back even further and say, how many runners are doing what you're doing in your workplace today? How many runners are doing what you're doing in your community today? How many runners in your life are doing this? That, you know, how many family members do you know that are doing this? Let's just be excited about the fact that you're doing this. And sometimes that in itself is just enough to recognize what a privilege it is to be able to be moving our bodies the way we do.
Yeah. Perspective is everything, and it's so valuable to take that step back, or that fly on the wall perspective, and like watching people actually come to realize that perspective change is, I don't know, it can be game changing, right?
Yeah, and you know, as a coach, right? That's sometimes the best part about coaching is seeing that revelation happen with athletes where they're like, aha!
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, you finally get it, or you got it, you understand. And helping them get there, you know, it's all in their time, but I think it's just really helpful and supportive as a coach to support that journey and see that unravel. It's just awesome.
Yeah. And that's, I think, one thing that not a lot of runners understand about coaching, right? Is it's not just the training plan and giving them these runs. It's the questions that we ask and the conversations and the experiments that we do with everything related to training. And then just incorporating life into that is so valuable. It's so much more than just the runs, right?
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, yes, because we both know that there's so much more out there that people could just go copy and paste and do and show up. But to your point, I think that it's just so much more thought and candor and consideration behind the scenes about who the person is, the whole picture, and helping them understand how to navigate and how to sort through that, asking those questions for them to like discern and think about and problem solve through, and that just taking that extra time to give them that food for thought. And it's not just showing up day after day to just check the box.
Yeah.
I mean, what value is that? You want them to be learning, you know, working through. And I think that's where Black's Grove just helped me as a coach too, and as a person, to say, I still have so much to learn. I'm not perfect at everything. There's so many things that can go wrong and so many things that can change, and so much value behind just leaning into that and being curious.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've talked about running with dogs. We've talked about your coaching, midlife running. We talked about Black's Grove, your experience with your first backyard ultra. Is there anything else you want to add or speak on before we kind of get to our last part of the episode?
You know, the only other thing that I would just put out there, a little plug here, is that I have a Heartland Trails Series race that I'm going to be launching in September 2027. So I know it's a little ways out there, but I'm going to be co-hosting with a nearby Taekwondo and Strength Fitness gym. We're super excited to be bringing this to the local community of Park Rapids, Minnesota. And it's going to be on the Heartland Trail, which is just a super iconic trail, offering a 10K, a half marathon, 50K, and 100K distance to start, with the aspiration that there may be a 100-miler in the future.
Yes.
So, yeah, really exciting. You know, registration will be opening probably late September after I've gotten through a Superior 100-miler, but that's just it's just really exciting to be able to try to bring that community to the area of such an amazing place and space too.
Yes, absolutely. And that'll be perfect for after Superior recovery, right?
It is. I mean, if you don't get into Superior, it'll be perfect. If you're post-Superior wanting just a small little fun race, it's actually a flat, fast course. So very different dynamics. If Superior intimidates you, it'll be the course that you can put your speed to the test and come show up. There's going to be a very generous time limit, so anyone at any distance should be able to inevitably complete. So it doesn't matter if you are out there all day to get your 50K done. It's a possibility and it can happen. And I'm super excited to bring that to the community.
Yeah. Oh, I love the trail community so much. Once you have everything set up for registration, I'll definitely share that with everyone so that people can check it out.
Yeah, that's awesome. Perfect.
So the last two questions that I've been asking everyone is, what advice do you have for runners who are hesitant to trying their first ultra, approaching the backyard, or last runner standing event, when they're just kind of nervous, hesitant, like, do I actually want to do this, or is this for me?
Oh, well, I would say embrace all those nerves, because that is a part of really a sure sign that it's meaningful to you.
Yeah.
And I think when there's meaning attached to something, that is amazing. Like, that just means you're passionate, you're excited, it brings you joy. So lean into those nerves. And I would say no better time than to either connect with a coach, connect with someone who's maybe already done it, reach out, pick their brain, ask them what maybe you should be prepared with, or what you could be prepared with, to just go into it with an open mind, an open palate, to just diving in, giving it a shot. You're never going to know until you try. And honestly, I think sometimes our brains are our biggest limiter. We put all these like limits on ourselves and we get in our own head, and that's where it falls short. And it's like, when you remove those bars, it is amazing and incredible. Look what we get to watch on YouTube all day long with documentaries, what these people can accomplish. It's like just unbelievable. It's remarkable what the human body is really, truly capable of. We just have to get our mind right to be able to do it.
Absolutely. And my last question is, if you could only fuel with one thing during your backyard ultra, and this could be completely realistic or funny and ridiculous, what would you fuel with?
Oh my goodness, that is a tough one. Well, I would have to probably say, though, this is almost like not a lot of thinking about this at all, just off the hip here. I would say Girl Scout lemonade cookies. Oh my gosh. I love their lemonade cookies, man. Give me anything lemon, but like lemonade Girl Scout cookies have got to be my one, like, oh man, I could just buy like a case of those things and survive off of those. That would be amazing. Yeah. So the lemonade, I think that would go
fairly well.
Yeah. Yeah. I think lemon is just like, right, good, citrusy.
Yeah, it's
the
refreshing.
Cookie would give me, lemonade Girl Scout cookies. I didn't have to think long about that one.
Wendy, thank you so much for this conversation. For those who want to follow along, what's the best way to follow you?
I am on Instagram only, Wendy Runs Free.
Awesome, awesome. I will put that in the show notes. I will put your coaching link in the show notes. Everyone, make sure you're also following her dogs. They are adorable and so fun to watch when they're out running and playing. So follow both of those accounts. But thank you so much again. If you are listening to this, if you've ever wondered whether you belong in the backyard ultra world, let this be your reminder to be curious and just to give it a try. Like, you never know what's going to happen until you actually put yourself in that position. It doesn't have to be perfect. You're never too old to try. So until next time, just go one more hour and one more step. Thanks for tuning in to One More Hour. If you enjoyed this episode, hit follow so you don't miss the next yard. And share it with a runner who loves pushing their limits. I'd love to hear your own stories of going one more. Connect with me on Instagram at the One More Hour Podcast. And if you could leave a quick review, it'll help more runners find the show and keep going when they want to stop. Until next time, just go one more hour.